Most of us were taught that truth is simple. A statement is true if it corresponds to the facts. The Earth orbits the Sun. That's true. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. That's true. Truth is out there, fixed and eternal, waiting to be discovered. William James looked at this comfortable picture and said, "Not so fast." In 1907, James published Pragmatism, a series of lectures that sent shockwaves through American and European philosophy. His central claim was radical almost to the point of being offensive. Truth is not a static property that ideas possess. Truth is something that happens to an idea. An idea becomes true insofar as it helps us get into a satisfactory relation with other parts of our experience. In his own words, the true is the name of whatever proves itself to be good in the way of belief. His critics accused him of destroying the very concept of truth. If truth is just what works, they said, then a comforting lie could be true, and a disturbing scientific fact could be false. James spent years patiently explaining why this misunderstood him. But the misunderstanding is itself revealing. It shows how deeply we cling to the idea that truth must be separate from us, independent of human purposes and human lives. To understand James properly, you need to understand what he meant by the cash value of an idea. This was his favorite metaphor, borrowed from economics. When you receive a check, it has written on it a certain dollar amount. But the check itself is just paper. Its value is realized only when you cash it, when you exchange it for something real and useful. James said ideas are exactly the same. An idea about the world has a kind of face value. It claims to represent reality. But its true value, its cash value, only appears when you test it in experience, when you follow out its practical consequences in the real world and see what it actually delivers. Consider the idea that regular exercise improves mental health. Is this true? In the classical sense, it either corresponds to biological reality or it does not. But James would ask something different. What happens when you act on this idea? You start exercising. Your mood lifts. Your anxiety decreases. Your sleep improves. The idea has paid out in experience. It has cash value. It is, in James's sense, true, and in a way that matters far more than any abstract correspondence could. Now consider religious belief. James was deeply interested in religion, not as dogma but as lived experience. Someone who believes in a loving God and draws from that belief courage, comfort, and moral motivation, James would say that belief is working for them. It is leading them through experience successfully. Whatever its relationship to metaphysical facts about the universe, the belief has practical truth in their life. This is not the same as saying God definitely exists or definitely doesn't. It's saying the belief has real cash value in one particular human life. This is why the charge of relativism always frustrated James. He wasn't saying anything goes. He was saying that truth claims must answer to experience. An idea that consistently leads you into confusion, failure, and contradiction is not true in his sense, no matter how comforting it might be. The pragmatic test is demanding, not permissive. Reality pushes back. Not every belief that feels good actually works. Science, James pointed out, already operates this way even if it doesn't admit it. Scientific theories are not eternal truths. They are models that successfully predict and explain experience. When a better model comes along, the old theory is abandoned, not because it stopped corresponding to some Platonic truth but because it stopped working as well. Newton's mechanics worked beautifully for 2 centuries. Then Einstein showed a model that worked better. Scientists didn't say Newton was wrong about eternal truth. They said his theory had a more limited cash value than previously thought. In everyday life, James's pragmatism offers a liberating and sometimes uncomfortable test. Instead of asking whether your beliefs are true in some abstract philosophical sense, ask, what do these beliefs do for me? Where do they lead? Do they open up possibilities or close them down? Do they give you energy and direction, or do they trap you in cycles of helplessness? A belief that paralyzes you, that makes you passive, that leads consistently to bad outcomes. James would say that belief is failing the pragmatic test, regardless of whether it might be technically accurate. Conversely, some beliefs that seem counterintuitive or even scientifically unverifiable may have enormous cash value. The belief that your efforts matter, that people can change, that the future is open. These are beliefs that cannot be proven in advance. But James, who struggled with depression and existential despair in his own life, knew that adopting them as working hypotheses could transform everything. They paid out in courage, in action, in resilience. James always insisted that new truths must agree with previous truths and with ongoing experience. You can't just believe whatever you feel like. But within those constraints, he wanted us to recognize that truth is not a passive mirror. It is an active instrument. Ideas are tools we use to navigate reality, and like all tools, they are good or bad depending on what they actually accomplish. The pragmatic theory of truth is scandalous because it removes truth from the safety of the abstract and puts it back in the middle of messy human life. It asks us to take responsibility for our beliefs, not just to hold them passively, but to test them, to follow their consequences, and to revise them honestly when they fail us. That is a harder task than simply believing in eternal facts. But it is, James would say, the only honest account of how truth actually works in a human life. Subscribe to The Psychology of William James for more insights from the father of American psychology. New videos every week.